last time we saw the Tigers, they were sitting atop the AL Central. Since that day in late April, they have played under 500 and sit 4.5 back of front-running Kansas City. It's time for the Indians to take advantage and make a statement against the team they have struggled against in recent seasons. The task starts with beating David Price, who opposes Danny Salazar, next on Sports Time Ohio. On the shores of the Detroit River, in the heart of the Motor City, Comerica Park in Detroit, Michigan, where tonight the Indians open up a 3-game series against the Detroit Tigers. Hi again, everyone. Matt Underwood alongside Rick Manning. Even though Colombia is nestled among the baseball-rich countries of Latin America, they have produced fewer than 20 major league players. Giovanni Urshela is the latest, and what an impact he had on the Indians yesterday.
You know, when you go out, it's something special to get your first major league hit in a baseball game. But he gets an RBI with it as well. But to follow up with your first major league home run, that makes it a very special day. He had a big impact in that ball game in the win for the Indians yesterday. When you can go home and say, I got my first hit, my first home run, and a couple more RBIs he has both balls to keep and show for it. So it was a great day, and he had a big smile to prove it.
Danny Salazar will get the start for the Tribe tonight in the series opener, and he's coming off a very good start against Baltimore. 7 innings, 10 punch-outs, only 1 run allowed.
Danny's been very good on the road this year. He is 3-1. If you remember, he came into Detroit earlier in the year and had a terrific start. The offense gave him some support early. He went 7 innings, and he handled the Detroit Tigers offense easily with his fastball and good splitter. Hopefully he can get him off to a good start tonight. He's 2-1 in his career against the Tigers with a 2.93 ERA. But on the other hand, he's going to have a tough left-hander. In his career, he has dominated the Tribe 7-1. But the last time he faced the Indians, he had his second shortest start of the year. He only went 5 2/3 innings, but gave up 3 runs, unearned runs there, with a no decision. But he has been very good for him, probably Detroit's best pitcher this year.
Kind of hard to figure, though, Rick. He's been better on the road. His last 3 starts at home, he's given up 28 hits and 16 runs allowed. We'll see if the Indians can take advantage of that here this evening in the series opener. Stay tuned. Indians and Tigers, the first pitch is coming up next. Cleveland Indians baseball is brought to you by WB Mason, the official office supplier of the Cleveland Indians. By McDonald's, I'm loving it. By your local Toyota dealers. Visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. And by the injury lawyers at Elk & Elk, proud sponsors of the Cleveland Indians. Call 1-800-ELK, Ohio. throws it out.
Oh, man.
Brandon Moss with a diving catch in right field. Just blew it right by him. And Cabrera strikes out to end the inning. Blast off, deep right field, gone to Souvenir City. And he has driven in 7 runs in the ballgame. Well, hopefully the Indians can find some of that offense tonight in the series opener against the Tigers. They'll need it against David Price, coming off his second double-digit strikeout performance of the season on Saturday at Chicago. Let's go downstairs to Andre Knott. Unfortunately, Andre, when the Indians face this guy, the Price is usually right. But what do they have to do to beat him?
Well, the one thing that they talked about is he no longer is just a guy that rears back and throws at 97 miles an hour. He's a guy that uses his intelligence. The other thing that Brad Ausmus talked about in the pregame, he goes, David has learned that, playing on the edges and throwing 92, 93 isn't a bad thing, and he's using his changeup so he doesn't run up his pitch count. From the Indian side, they go, look, we love it. Most of the guys say we love going against him because we know the ball's going to be in the strike zone. We just have to hit the best pitch that we get and not allow him to dictate what we swing at.
Yeah, he's got a very good fastball. I mean, he can crank it up if need be, but he likes to stay on the edges. He's got a nice slider as well, and he's just a tough at-bat. But, yeah, I can see how you look forward to facing some of the best, and hopefully they can get to him early.
Let's take a look at the starting lineup for the Indians tonight under manager Terry Francona, brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Jason Kipnis at the top spot, followed by Carlos Santana. And it's Michael Brantley, 9 for 17 against the Tigers this year. Then Ryan Rayburn, Nick Swisher, and Yan Gomes. Brandon Moss, great numbers in this park, 7 for 18 against the Tigers this year. Yvonne Urshela and Mike Aviles rounded out.
Our Northern Ohio Honda dealer starting pitchers, David Price. Price making his 13th start this year. As you said, he's turned in his second complete game in his last start against the White Sox. 9 innings, 5 hits, 2 walks, 11 punch-outs. He is 7-3 in this ballpark in his career, and he's done very well against the Indians. 7-1. So let's set the defense for you behind Price. Brought to you by Chrysler. It'll be Cespedes in left field, Gose is in center, Collins over in right, Castellanos at third, Iglesias at short, Kinsler at second, Cabrera at first, McCann doing the catching. They are rated number 1 in the league in defense, only 29 errors this year.
Kerwin Danley has the plate tonight. Rob Drake at first, crew chief Joe West at second base, Chris Siegel, or Siegel, he's down at third, not sure on that one. Jason Kipnis will lead it off for the Indians. And the first pitch from David Price is in there, a called strike. Kipnis still a red hot .333 batting average. Bouncing ball towards first. Big hop for Cabrera. He'll flip it. And Price has it at the bag for out number 1. Keys to the game brought to you by Wayside Furniture. Get into that Tigers pen. And with Miguel Cabrera, he doesn't have Victor Martinez behind him. He does have Orlando Cespedes, though. We'll see how the Indians handle the big guy in this series.
Well, and also the key, you keep the guys off base in front of Cabrera. That way you have options. Easier said than done.
Well, here's Carlos Santana. Santana on the year, 9 for 20 against the Tigers with 6 runs batted in. Indians have had one really good offensive performance against the Tigers, resulting in their lone win in the series when they beat them 13-1 here. Tigers have won 5 out of the 6.
That also was a Friday night, the first time we were in Detroit.
And in 4 of those 5 wins, Tigers have scored 8 runs or more. 2 down here in the first as Michael Brantley comes up. And we'll take a look at our window system's game time temperature. 74 degrees, just a light breeze blowing out towards center field. Cloudy skies. Chance of some precipitation, but all in all, very beautiful evening. Michael Brantley.
He's coming out and throwing nothing but strikes.
Brantley this year has gone 9 for 17 against the Tigers. Make it 10 for 18. 2-out single the opposite way. Keeps the inning alive for Cleveland, and it'll get Ryan Rayburn an at bat here in the first inning.
See that ball hit the side of the mound and it kicked left.
Away.
It kicked towards the left field. Hits the side of the mound. Iglesias was going over there and it had a little skip to it. And it gets by him easily. So Brantley now with that hit, a 10-game hitting streak, and you go back to last year, he has 9 streaks of 10 or more games. That is unbelievable.
Again, it's just more proof of how consistent he is.
Excuse me, 6 streaks, not 9. 6. That was a 9-game hitting streak going to 10.
Rayburn awaits the pitch and a check swing foul. Ryan is a career 300 hitter against the club he once played for. Numbers against the Tigers very similar to his numbers on the year. 300, 3 homers, 17 driven in, 4 homers, 13 batted in against the Tigers in his career. Swung on and missed, and the count is 0-2.
Price, a guy, when you get base runners, very deliberate on the mound. He can take about 25 seconds or so in between pitches. Seems like he was much quicker. When there's nobody on, he comes from the full windup. For him, it's not much of a windup.
Two-strike pitch, quick delivery, and a fly ball to right field. Tyler Collins makes the grab, and the inning is over. No runs, 1 hit, 1 man left. The Tigers are coming to bat when we come back. Brad Ausmus is courtesy of Toyota. Rajay Davis leading it off. Then it's Ian Kinsler, followed by Miguel Cabrera. Yoenis Cespedes, Tyler Collins, and Nick Castellanos in the middle. James McCann, Jose Iglesias, and Anthony Gose round it out.
Our Northern Ohio Honda dealer starting pitcher, Danny Salazar, 25-year-old right-hander, making his 11th start. He beat the Tigers earlier this year on a Friday night here. He went 7 innings, 6 hits, had 11 strikeouts. Let's set the defense behind Salazar. It's brought to you by Chrysler. It looks like this. In the outfield, Rayburn, Brantley, and Moss. On the infield, Urshela, Aviles, Kipnis, and Santana, with Gomes doing the catching.
Interesting moment while you were giving the defense there. Rajay Davis and Yan Gomes having a conversation at home plate. First time they've met since Davis slid home into the foot of Gomes that caused the knee injury that put him on the DL. Tried to hold up, but he went around. It's 0-2. I'm assuming it was a good-natured conversation.
Well, it was not intentional by any means. And, you know, I'm sure he wanted to check and see how he's feeling, how he's doing.
Probably happy to see him back on the field.
Jan says, check the box scores. I'm starting to swing it.
Check the numbers. Davis serving as the DH tonight. Has gone 6 for 12 this year against Cleveland pitching, as you see there. Salazar in attack mode, almost got that off-speed pitch over the inside corner. Davis was frozen. He couldn't react to it at all. Fastball ripped to right field. 1-2 pitch. And Davis aboard to start the game for Detroit. This was the play earlier in the season at home. Davis sliding home. Took out the foot of Gomes, who was on the plate.
He had a lot of that play. He was right in the middle of it. Santana gets a throw in there, but he knocked the knee out. You can see him grabbing that knee right there, and that put him on the shelf for 6 weeks.
Yeah. So Davis aboard to start the night for Detroit. He's 13 stolen bases on the year. He's only been caught 3 times. And here's Ian Kinsler, who's gone 13 for 24 against Cleveland this year.
Well, we faced him earlier, and this guy was on fire, taking the ball the other way, shooting it to right field a lot. When you look at his numbers, man, he only has 1 home run, and normally he's much better than that. But I mean, he's changed his approach. He was a dead pull hitter up until this year.
I wonder if it's a case of they were able to just show him, prove to him that, look, we've got guys behind us that can hit the ball out of the ballpark. All we need you to do is get on base.
You know, I figure if I'm a hitter in that Tigers lineup, why wouldn't you want to just talk to Cabrera and with Victor around? You know, the cages and how they approach hitting the baseball. You know, you can have a hitting coach, and Kinsler was always in Texas, a dead pull hitter, even though the ball carried to right center field. But boy, he came up earlier, and he was hitting everything up the middle, the other way. You slow it down for him, and you can speed up his bat.
1 ball, 1 strike. The Tigers, like the Indians, have played better on the road this year. Both clubs 16 and 13 away from home. Detroit is a game below 500 here at Comerica Park. Davis is off. Paul is down to second, but on 1 hop. And safe is Davis with his 14th steal of the year.
Had a pretty good jump off Salazar right there. And it's going to be tough with a guy of his speed to come up and throw him out. He peeks back and realizes the ball is not there. He doesn't swing at it, but he slides in head first. He gets his 14th stolen base.
Now Kinsler in a good count, 2-1. Low, 3 balls and a strike.
You know, you look at this Tigers team, Matt, and I was checking it out. They're 20-11 in the Central Division, where they have dominated, the best record. But against the rest of baseball, they're 11-18. So everybody else has found a way to get the Tigers' number. But in the Central, they've been very tough.
Kinsler with a long drive Deep left. Rayburn back at the wall. Makes the catch. Slams into the fence and hangs on. And back to second base goes Davis. Oh, boy. What a terrific early defensive gem. Turned in by Ryan Rayburn to keep the Tigers off the board.
Boy, it was a nice running catch. That ball was hit hard. I thought it was going to be over his head. There's a fastball down the middle. And Danny's got to stay out of the middle of the plate. And Rayburn on the dead run in left field. You know, it doesn't matter where he plays, left or right. He seems to make some really nice catches. You know, going to his right field and a catch right there in left. To me, left is a tougher position to play than right.
He tends to find the wall, whether he's playing left field or right field. That's for sure. He's a gritty player. All right, Miguel Cabrera up with first base open here in the first inning. Blowing away, ball one. Cabrera this year, 15 hits in 23 at-bats, with 3 homers, 9 runs batted in against the Indians.
Well, that opening series he had against the Indians, he was 11 for 15 in that first series.
Yeah, I don't remember ever seeing that before. So most of those hits came in that one series.
Sure did.
T-Mobile game changer, and he is all of that and more. Davis in scoring position. Cabrera awaiting the 2-0 pitch. And Salazar whips a fastball by him.
Let's check the location here. 2-0, you've got to make it. He just challenged him. Almost looked like Cabrera was sitting on something else. An off-speed pitch there, because that was at 93. He threw it by him, so I have to think he was looking off speed.
That fastball sailed high. There's no sun here tonight whatsoever, and I'm looking at Cabrera. I'm assuming those aren't corrective lenses, but
enhancers maybe.
Yeah. Like he needs any more help.
Yeah, right. He's got X-ray vision anyway.
Swung out and missed. Good fastball once again by Danny Salazar, and the count goes full.
Well, you can see he's not trying to pull anything. He's staying on the ball. It's a 3-1 pitch. He's trying to go the other way with it. And that fastball got by him.
Payoff pitch. Upstairs. Tried to get him to chase the high heater. He wouldn't do it.
That's okay. He fell behind in the count. He made a couple of decent pitches, and Cabrera would not chase that high fastball. Maybe just a little too high. But you still have a double play in order.
Omar Vizquel, Carlos Santana, Miguel Cabrera renewing acquaintances as we wait for Yoenis Cespedes to dig in. Cespedes, a .302 average this year with 9 home runs, 33 driven in. He also has 18 doubles.
Well, this is a guy you would think he has a lot to play for this year, because he's a free agent at the end of the year. Well, now he's hitting behind Cabrera. He's going to have many opportunities to drive in runs. With Victor Martinez out of the lineup, and Victor's starting to work his way back. He's close to getting back to the lineup.
Cespedes might have expanded his strike zone with that pitch. 9 balls, 9 strikes thus far for Danny Salazar in this opening frame. The whole complexion of the first inning changes, though. He's got Rajai Davis down on the count 0-2, and then on a 1-2 pitch, Davis gets a base hit to right field, and now he's aboard. Steals second. Kinsler flies the deep left. You got Cabrera up there. First base open. Davis takes off for third. Ball squibbed out to Salazar. They'll throw it to first. Now coming home is Davis, and he is out at the plate. Holy smokes! The guts of a cat burglar. Davis tried to steal a run, and the Indians said no. And a terrific throw home got him, and the inning is over. Spectacular catch in deep left field up against the fence, and then a nifty, unusual double play to end the inning. Kind of ironic, right out of the gate, first meeting since the injury to Gomes, but it's Gomes and Davis at the plate. This time Gomes tagging him out, and it ends the inning.
Well, I think it's good hustle by Davis because he was off and running on the pitch. Cespedes swung at it, didn't follow it up, but hit a little.
Out of the corner of my eye, I saw him coming hard around third. Now he's not going to try to go here, is he?
Oh, yes,
yes, he is.
Yes, he is. You always have to expect that from a guy like him with the speed. But Santana made a really good throw. Firm to get it to Gomes in time.
Nick Swisher will lead off the second for Cleveland. Pops the first pitch up. Shallow right. Out goes Kinsler, second baseman. Makes the catch, one away.
Well, Live Indians Baseball is back in 2015 with MLB.com at bat. On your smartphone or tablet, you can stay connected with live radio broadcast stats, breaking news, and more. Download MLB.com at bat, the #1 app for live baseball.
Up comes Yan Gomes. He is a career .324 hitter against Detroit pitching with 4 home runs and 10 runs batted in. And David Price in with a fastball. Rick, you were talking about Detroit, you know, and the disparity between what they've done at home, what they've done on the road, what they've done inside the Central Division, what they've done outside the Central Division. I'll give you one more that's a real head scratcher. Lynn Henning, the outstanding writer for the Detroit News, wrote today that the Tigers' earned run average as a pitching staff in their 31 wins is 1.27.
Right.
In their 29 losses, it's 8.48. That is hard to believe.
Yeah, how do you figure that one out?
I mean, how can it be that vastly different? And even Jeff Jones, the pitching coach, says, I don't ever remember being associated with a club or hearing of a club that had that kind of disparity wins and losses with its earned run average. And a lot of it has to do with the personnel. Price has been Price. Alfredo Simon has been very good. Everybody else, not so much.
No, they've been, even Sanchez has an ERA of over 5.
Gomes strikes out. 2 down here in the second inning. Now they'll get Justin Verlander back tomorrow, and we'll see if he adds any stability to the Tigers' rotation. Let's look back. Here's Davis aggressively running the bases.
That's really a heads-up play on Davis's part. But Santana, he didn't hesitate. He didn't expect it. He just threw a seed to Gomes, and you can see him tag him right on the elbow before that hand gets to the plate. He made it close. That's how close it was. If that throw wasn't firm from Santana, he would have been in safely.
As we went to break, Brad Ausmus was considering a challenge, but then waved it off. Tigers take Nick Castellanos, their third baseman, and they put him in shallow right field for the shift here with Brandon Moss at the plate. They leave Iglesias, the shortstop, on the left side of the infield by himself. We see a couple of teams do this type of a shift as opposed to
the third baseman instead of the just move everybody over.
To me, this seems to make a little more sense. Well, why not keep the guy with what should be the best range on that side of the field by himself?
In his position, you're right.
One pitch. Oh, nice bender. That one dropped in for a strike. And Moss down on the count, 1-2.
There it is. Slider starts behind him and comes into the plate. Well, you got to look at it right now. You can expand that slider and start it at the middle plate and work it away now.
Tried to shoot a fastball over that corner and missed. 2-2.
This is where he can reach back and go to 95, 96 when he wants to dot the outside corner and not give a guy a chance. Earlier in the count, he may just, go to 92, 93 and stay on the edges.
It's exactly what he's trying to do, but he's unable to locate it where he wants, or he wants to just miss and see if Moss will chase, since he was in a situation where he had a pitch to give. Moss much more effective on the road this year for whatever reason. And the 3-2 strikes him out. 1-2-3 go the Indians. We go to the bottom of the second, scoreless in Detroit. And for Detroit, Tyler Collins going to lead it off as we take a look at our Levin Furniture player profile. 6th round pick 4 years ago. Played in the Australian Baseball League in the winter of 2011. All-Star Game MVP honors. Pops it up. Shallow left. In comes Ryan Rayburn. And makes the catch, one away. Maybe he didn't like us talking about him. He wanted to get out of there quickly.
Well, you know, when you're a young hitter, you go up there and you're facing a guy like Salazar who has a very good fastball, and you know it. What do young hitters search? They search that first pitch fastball, and they get one they get after.
Nick Castellanos. Just 4 hits this year against the Indians, but 2 of them have gone for home runs. No score, second inning. After a rather lengthy, rugged first inning, Danny could use a quick second. Nice to get that first out on one pitch. Now the 1-2. Wow. An awfully good looking pitch right there. I don't know what
Take
was
a look
wrong with it.
On our Nissan pitch tracker. Fastball has a little comeback to it right on the outside edge. I thought that was a really good pitch.
Yeah. Whew. Wow. Great off-speed pitch, and Castellanos had no chance. First strikeout for Salazar. 2 down here in the second inning. Watch the bottom just literally fall out of this pitch.
That's his splitter. And you're right. It starts low. It's in the strike zone, and the hitter's tracking it as a strike. And boy, by the time it gets there, it just goes due south. And a swing and a miss. And Salazar can get swing and misses. He's very good at it.
He averages almost 12 per 9 innings, which is the best in baseball. James McCann handling the catching duties with Alex Avila on the shelf. Avila has been bothered by a left knee problem, and he was placed on the disabled list a month ago.
Yeah, he's had knee problems for the last few years.
Grounded to third. That'll stay fair. Behind the bag, Urshela, long throw right on the money. And the Tigers go 1-2-3. Salazar cruises through the second. No score. Here's our great clip of the game from yesterday at Progressive Field. What a day for Giovanni Urshela. His first major league hit, drove in a run, and then his first major league home run deep into the bleachers, carrying back onto the field ultimately. And so they were able to get the ball for Urshela, who said, I'm going to keep this forever.
Yeah, what a great day. Not only just to get your hit, but the homer to go with it. Something very special. And a win. Chalk one up in the win column. That makes it special.
The only downside, and not that it's a big deal, but certainly for the family it was, they were there for his major league debut. They had to catch a flight, so they left right before he got his first big league hit.
Yeah,
they had to head to the airport.
Well, I'm sure he could get a copy and send it to him.
As I mentioned, Rick, in the Open, Colombia, it's right next to Venezuela. You think of all the great Latin American players that come from that part of the world. But Colombia, for whatever reason, hasn't been a big baseball producer. I mean, we had there the Cabreras, both Hobart and Orlando.
Right.
They were both from Colombia. Just haven't been many. Giovanni Urshela is the latest from Cartagena. Swing and a miss. He'll strike him out.
Change-ups.
That's 3 straight Ks for David Price.
He had a change-up before, and he gets a change-up here. Back to back. And you can see when you throw mid-90s and you get an 86, 87 mile an hour change-up, you can see how you're going to be out in front.
Mike Aviles takes a strike. I was thinking back to our conversations over the years with the late, great Bob Feller, the Hall of Famer. In his day, when a pitcher went out to finish the game, knowing when he went out there, he was going to be out there in most likelihood for all 8 or 9 innings. He said a lot of times you get to the bottom of the order, it's fastball, fastball. Let the guy hit it in the air, put it in play. I want to get quick outs, save some pitches. But nowadays, with starting pitchers knowing that they're looking for 6, 7 innings, they can manipulate the guys at the bottom of the order and throw them more off-speed stuff. Where in the old days, you probably got more pitches to hit if you were batting 8th or 9th.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. With pitch counts, though, that's the thing.
Yep.
Pitchers back then used to walk more guys than a lot of guys try to now, because if you walk many guys, you're not going to be around anyway.
Yeah.
That's always intrigued me about Justin Verlander, who we're going to see tomorrow. This guy had great stuff from day one coming up, and it didn't matter. He tried to strike you out and embarrass you, more than anything, and he'd be at that 5 inning, maybe 6 innings, and you'd have him at 110 pitches.
Aviles ground ball in the hole. And a base hit for the Indians, their second tonight. So first time through the order, the Indians go 2 for 9 against Price. 4 strikeouts, both of the hits singles.
Well, nice job by Aviles with down in the count 1-2. Had a ball down in the strike zone, gets enough of it. You get it by that shortstop, you're doing something. Iglesias, very good shortstop. Always talking and chirping going on with Cabrera, isn't it?
All 9 Indians hitters, I'm told, saw first pitch strikes first time through.
Yeah, 23 out of his 29 pitches have been strikes.
Now Jason Kipnis. Give you an idea of how good the Tigers have been, though, in the time that Jason Kipnis has been around. Against teams who he's played at least 4 games against. This is his second lowest batting average against Detroit. 223 career mark against the Tigers. There's a line drive base hit in the left field.
Well, he heard you.
Yes, he did. Aviles stops at second. He was aggressively going into the bag, but Cespedes was right there.
He started Jason off with a very good fastball down and away, and then this may be a breaking ball. Might have been a cutter. I think his slider's a little bit slower, but that ball it didn't get away enough.
A little flat.
But that's okay. That allowed Jason to just stay on it and take it to left field, that patented swing of his. So back-to-back singles. The Indians now with an opportunity with a runner in scoring position.
And Kipnis has now hit in 8 straight games, 10 for his last 29. And Carlos Santana, the batter, struck out his first time up. No pitch. Hopped up, foul, out of play. Well, you look at Carlos Santana and what he's been able to do in his time in the big leagues. Power from really both sides of the plate. Primarily his power comes from the left side, but these last 2 years, 20 homers, 27 homers, 74 ribbies, 85 runs batted in. But this year, boy, he has just had a tough time with runners in scoring position, batting just .217, 13 hits and 60 at-bats.
You know, it's almost like his attitude changes when you get guys in scoring position. He gets a little more aggressive as a hitter instead of remaining patient like he normally is, you know, because he feels he's going to get a pitch to hit. I think he just tries to do too much. And sometimes he gets a little pull happy instead of just taking what the pitcher's going to give you. And that could be a base hit the other way at times.
You know, this could be a double play. And it gets Price out of the inning. Middle of the third, no score in Detroit. For Miller Time, brought to you by Miller Lite. For the Tigers here in the bottom of the third, Jose Iglesias, Anthony Gose, and Rajai Davis. Another big house here in the Motor City. It looks like a sellout.
Fireworks to follow tonight. their Richard Branson threw out the first pitch. How about that?
Don't see that every day.
No, you do not.
Jose Iglesias, a cool .329 average on the year. Popped him up. Is it playable for Gomes? Look out, railing coming up quick. He's there and makes the basket catch for out number 1.
Yeah, you get a little help over there from your own dugout. He was getting close. He really could. He took a peek, looks back up, and he knew he was getting close. And the heel of the glove, but he takes it right in to the chest protector. There you go.
So 1 out for Anthony Gose. Big bouncer to second. Kipnis will throw him out. 2 quick outs here in the 3rd.
Yeah, I like to see that for a guy like Salazar.
Here's our lows. Never stop improving note for tonight. Most strikeouts per 9 innings in the big leagues. Danny Salazar is right there at the top. Chris Archer, Clayton Kershaw, Chris Sale, all of those guys. You think of those names and you think punch outs.
Yeah.
And they come in bunches.
And Salazar has about 29% swing and miss stuff where they will swing and not even put the ball in play or foul it off, which is outstanding.
Rajay Davis looks at a ball down low. Chops it foul. Davis tied for 4th in the league in stolen bases. When the night began, that steal in the 1st inning that he picked up could have him tied for 2nd when the night is over, depending on what happens with the Yankees. Brett Gardner and Jacoby Ellsbury were tied with 14. Instead of the Bronx Bombers, they might have to change the nickname. The running Yankees, huh?
Yeah, a couple of those guys can run when healthy.
And the 1-2 low. Last time it was a 1-2 pitch. Threw him a fastball that was up, and Davis was able to just rifle it to right field. Oh, how about that? A little half swing, and he's able to foul it back. If he takes it, it's out. He's going to be out. It's going to be a called 3rd strike. Watch. He barely offers at it, but somehow just gets enough of it. That's when you're going well. Salazar shakes him off 4 times. Now, almost hit him with a breaking ball that got loose.
Yeah, that was the breaking curveball because he's been on him, so they want to show him maybe a little something different to put that 3rd pitch in his mind. He just got underneath that one, maybe overthrew it a little bit.
Fastball hit high in the air. Left center, Brantley galloping over and makes the catch. Well, Danny Salazar has set down 7 straight, and we are scoreless through 3. Fourth inning here in Detroit. The most hits this year against left-handed pitching. Look at that, 3 Indians hitters. For all the talk of the troubles they've had against left-handed starters in particular, Indians have piled up a lot of hits. Well, they faced enough of them.
Well, what happened is they got off to a slow start in April, and they've really turned it around. They're 11-13 now against left-handed starters, but because of Brantley and Kipnis, 2 of the guys being left-handed, and then Rayburn pitching in doing his job like he did 2 years ago, you know, that's a nice combination. Because between those 3 guys, they're in the top 4 spots in the lineup.
Look at that. There's the team. First 9 games, 1-8.
Right.
Then 10-5.
They've turned it around. And that's just a matter of facing them and getting comfortable.
Brantley pops one to left. Cespedes. We had a little trouble with that ball at the end. Look at him staring at Anthony Ghost. That ball got him twisted around. He makes the catch. And there's one down. Ryan Rayburn coming up here. Boy, let's go down to Andre. His ability to swing the bat effectively has really given the Indians lineup a different dynamic this year.
It has absolutely changed their dynamic against lefties, as you just showed that up there on the screen. The other thing Ryan told me is he said in the offseason he knew he had to take better care of himself after struggling with knee injuries last year. He really got himself in shape. He says he's just comfortable. He said the other thing that helps is he's seen so many lefties this early in the season, so he's comfortable when he's up to bat against these lefties, and it's truly helping out this Indians lineup.
Well, you know, Andre, the one thing about Ryan Rayburn, it's not like he gets, you know, injuries from getting up off the couch and running too fast to the fridge. This guy runs into walls. He's diving on the warning track. His injuries are usually born out of his aggressive style of play.
Absolutely. And he says, look, I can't change how I play at this age that I'm at, but he knows he's got to take better care of his body. And Tito has helped him with that during the season as well, letting him know when he's going to play, when he's not going to play, and how to best take care of himself.
Well, it's been a great platoon situation between he and Murphy.
Sure
you add the 2 together. Murphy's been very good. Those are the 2 veterans coming off the bench. They pinch hit for you. They've both done a nice job in that department. And they know when they're going to play because of lefty-righty. And Tito's been true to it all year long.
Here's the play Rayburn made in the first inning. I mean, all out. He's going right into that wall face first, hanging on. That's a big play. If he doesn't make that catch, the Tigers score. The inning's still going. Who knows what happens right out of the gate. I mean, this is a Tigers team that they can thrive on some momentum when things go their way.
Well, for me, the Indians have played much better on the road than they have at home. And anytime you bring that pitching and defense on the road with you, you got a really good chance to win.
Yeah, I think it's a basketball term. I don't remember where I first heard it. Maybe it's football, but defense travels. You play good defense, you can win anywhere.
Right. I mean, the pitching's better. They have about a run better ERA on the road than they do at home for whatever reason. I don't know. I can't figure it out. But they've won their last 4 road series in a row. And it's the key. This is where they won their very first road game of the year to start a series off. The first game of a series was here, and that was the big blowout, 13-1.
No score in this one. We're in the 4th with 1 out. Rayburn has worked the count full. Fly to right his first time up. Now David Price with the payout pitch. Popped him up, and Rayburn, he wanted to slam that bat into the ground. 3 men converged, and it was the right fielder Collins who ultimately said, you know what, guys, I'll take this.
You know what? That's the right call. Cabrera was going out. Kinsler called Cabrera off, and then Collins calls off Kinsler to make the play.
Here's a look at the splits home and road. Runs per game are very similar, but look at the pitching. The starters in particular. You know, we tend to lay a lot of their problems on the offense, but there's reason. I mean, there are reasons why they haven't played well at home, and it's not just the bats.
No, you're right. It's a combination of everything.
Nick Swisher looks at a ball up high. Popped him up again, almost a carbon copy of his first at bat. This time it's Collins. Indians go quickly. And we'll go to the bottom of the fourth. Still no score in Motown. No score as we get ready for the bottom of the fourth inning. Our stat of the game brought to you by Buick. Since 2009, the Tigers are 41-16 against the Indians. The Yankees have been a little bit better against the Blue Jays, their division foe. Blue Jays likewise have done the same thing to the Orioles.
Isn't that funny how it works? Look at the Blue Jays again. Tampa's beating them.
Yeah.
What goes around comes around, huh?
The bottom line for Cleveland, though, is this is a team they have to find a way to do better against. I'm not saying that they got to run the table the rest of the year, but they have to find a way.
Well, you've got to start winning some series against these guys. And I mean, they've had a tough time winning in this ballpark.
Remember, Rick, I think it was 2 years ago, the Indians won maybe 6 out of the first 7 or something like that against Detroit, and then the Tigers swept the rest of the season against them. Missed inside. 2-1 to Kinsler, who flied to deep left in that first inning. Good off-speed pitch.
That was the slider. Boy, if he has that to the right-handers, and just to show it to him, you see Kinsler couldn't pull the trigger there. Boy, that would bode real well for his changeup and fastball. There it is. That's a good pitch.
Why would that not be called a strike?
It's a good pitch. It had the plate. It was like the other one over there. Remember before we showed you one on our pitch tracker? Well, here's another one at the knees. That's a strike. Look at Gomes. Then he was looking for the swing.
Yeah.
He didn't get it one way. Try another.
Bounces it foul.
Well, you keep making pitches like that, you'll get swings and misses, or eventually they'll start calling them, you hope.
And the payoff. Out of play. Oh, he absolutely jammed him. And Urshela has to hurry the throw, but does so in time to get him.
Boy, you want to talk about burying a pitch in on your hands.
Try to hit that one with your thumbs.
Well, that's about what he hit it with. I mean, look at that fastball. Boy, the movement coming in. There was late movement on that pitch. And Kinsler couldn't hold up, and it just jammed him. And they get the first out of the inning. Great pitch.
One away for Miguel Cabrera. First time up, he drew a walk. It was a good at bat for Cabrera, but also a very intelligently pitched at bat by Salazar. Danny threw him some fastballs, but nothing really that Cabrera could hurt him with. And he moved the ball around, tried to get him to chase. 3-2 pitch. He ended up drawing the walk.
Well, you don't mind walking this guy. And again, he had a base open. This guy is such a good hitter. He will change from at bat to at bat. He'll sit on pitches, you know, and he can hit anything. I don't care if it's inside, outside, up, or down.
That curveball he doesn't have a good feel for, but I guess you got to show it to him.
He's trying to show it, but even that pitch there for me, with this guy hitting, moving his foot out of the toe hold, even though it's a ball, it helps.
Good split change there, and it's 2-2. Again, it's just a change of pace.
Right.
And he's out in front of it. Almost got him to expand, but he holds up, and here we are again at a full count. And the payoff, swung out and missed. He elevated the fastball just above the belt, and Cabrera strikes out, 2 down.
That's what he tried to do the last time up, except the other one was a little too high. This is going to be our Circle K strikeout. He threw this one away from him. You can see Cabrera already shaking his head. He threw that ball right by him. That is strikeout number 2. Only 2 strikeouts, but I like what Salazar is doing.
Well, the last 2 innings he was very efficient. And that's kind of what you have to do with this lineup. You get to the bottom part, you better be efficient, because you're going to need to save some pitches for these guys in the middle.
Now, that's true with your good offensive lineups. There's not a lot of great lineups. I'm talking that wear you down as a starter throughout the course of a start, but Detroit has always been one.
Saw Victor Martinez in the Tigers dugout.
He's talking hitting, and you look, they're just sitting there. That was a good pitch.
1-2 the count. This one
Again,
has some wicked movement.
Yeah, again, you're getting that change down and away. Look at Cespedes. He wanted to swing. He didn't swing.
Hit in the hole on a 1-2 pitch. And the Tigers have their second hit of the night, and both hits have come on a 1-2 pitch. AT&T, U-verse rewind. Last time Cespedes was up, little check swing roller. Salazar threw him out at first, and Santana threw back to home to nail Davis, who was trying to steal a run. And that ended the first inning. Just nicked him on the shirt sleeve.
Boy, that was close.
As Davis took a nosedive into the dirt. Here's Tyler Collins with 2 down. Fly to left. His first time up on the only pitch he saw. Swing and a miss.
He gets the start tonight in the outfield because J.D. Martinez has not had very good numbers against Salazar, so they let him take the night off.
Lifted to left over near the line. Rayburn makes the catch. 4 complete from Detroit, and no score between the Indians and Tigers. Brought to you by your Northern Ohio Honda dealers. By the Cleveland Clinic. Call for an appointment today. And by the game-changing all-new Ford F-150. The future is tough. No score through 4. And a well-pitched game on both sides to this point.
Yeah, boy, has it ever. Look at the efficiency by these two starters. Very good. Fun to watch. They're locked in right now.
You know, the old company line among pitchers historically has been, I don't pitch against the other pitcher. I pitch against the lineup.
Right.
But I would imagine when you get into a game like this, it might not have been your mindset when you went out to the bullpen to warm up. But when you have 4 innings, you're 4 innings in, and you see the other guy chucking, it starts to creep in your mind that I better stay pretty locked in here.
When you see what that other pitcher's doing to your lineup, you're saying, hey, I cannot afford to give up anything. I got to be just as good as he is. Yeah, you get caught into it. There's no question about it.
Gomes just fouled on the left side. That would have been nice had that stayed fair. Jan struck out his first time up, but boy, he has been swinging the bat very well of late. 9 for 24 on the homestand.
Well, he's just getting back into the groove. He's playing back-to-back games and back-to-back-to-back. You know, just getting out there, knowing the strike zone, feeling comfortable in the batter's box. Up until that one.
Price got him to expand. That's 5 strikeouts now for the Tigers left-hander. 1 away. Injury report brought to you by the injury lawyers at Elk & Elk. Justin Verlander will come off the DL and make his start tomorrow against the Indians. Victor Martinez, Alex Avila we've talked about. Kyle Lobstein, Bruce Rondon. Joe Nathan, of course, had the Tommy John surgery. There's Justin Verlander, scheduled to make his first start of the year tomorrow. Brandon Moss with a base hit in the right field.
They would have had to put the shortstop over there too, all 4 of them on that side if they wanted to get Moss out on that swing. It's funny, and it's nice to see when a guy can hit a ball past 3 guys over on one side of the infield, but boy, that doesn't happen often. This one was just deep enough because they had their third baseman playing in shagging zone.
I was going to say, it's almost like when you see BP and guys are shagging. That's how many guys are standing in one spot.
I know.
Here's Giovanni Urshela, struck out his first time up.
Well, and it's funny, out of the 4 hits that Price has given up, 3 of them have come off the bats of left-handers. Kipnis, Brantley, and now Moss, but then he answers.
He gets another double play. Middle of the 5th. Scoreless in Detroit. For everybody, 6 different routes, 1- and 2-day rides. Every dollar raised by Velasano participants benefits cancer research at Cleveland Clinic. Visit velasano.org and bike to cure. Nick Castellanos leading off the bottom of the 5th for Detroit. He's the number 6 hitter in their lineup. A little half swing for strike 1.
Well, I'll tell you what, these two pitchers are slicing and dicing, man. They're getting after it.
And it's almost as if you could say, truly, mirror images tonight, with one being left, one being right-handed. They're efficient,
throwing strikes, making guys swing the bats. Look at that.
Oh,
see, he hasn't gotten that pitch tonight. And I'll tell you what, he's been out there 3 straight times in the same spot. But I will say this about Kerwin Danley: he hasn't called one of them a strike. So he's been consistent. Not to say they weren't strikes. They're close.
It's consistently missing.
Well, it looks like that. I'll tell you what, if those pitchers were getting those pitches all night long, it'd be 0-0 after 9.
2-2. And that was way off the plate. Full count. Foul back. Mentioned before, Castellanos 2 home runs against the Indians this year. Only 4 on the season. The Tigers' third baseman. Another foul back, and that was a pitch that was right down the middle. But again, it shows you that Salazar has the kind of stuff tonight that,
well, with the hitters and their approach, the right-handers, they try to stay on the ball for his off-speed pitches and shoot the fastball the other way. They don't try and turn on it, because then you're off the breaking ball or his off-speed pitches. And in this ballpark, you can shoot it to right field. You have that triples alley in right center, and the big center field 420. A lot of fly balls go to die there.
That's in the air to right field and right at Brandon Moss. 1 down.
Danny Salazar has been outstanding tonight with that changeup. There's a little breaking ball he's mixed in, a moving fastball that jams hitters, a good high heater. I mean, you can see the kind of stuff. It's sharp, it's late breaking, it's effective. He's throwing strikes, he's working ahead in the count, he's doing everything he has to do.
James McCann lines one toward left field. Rayburn reaches out and makes the catch.
Yes.
Oh, a terrific backhanded running grab by Rayburn for out number 2.
In his mind, when he was going after that ball, I guarantee you he was thinking of diving. And this is going to be our McDonald's. I'm loving it. So another great catch. Watch him right at the end. He's going to put that glove down. I know he wanted to think he was going to have to dive after that, and he would have. But he was able to catch up to it right at the last minute. He sticks out the glove, makes a fine running catch. That's 2 tonight for Ryan Rayburn. Both of them very nice. Extra base hits taken away.
Oh. There are some guys that I've seen over the years, Rick, it almost looks like it's not that they dive to try and make a play look more dramatic than it is, but I think some guys feel like it's easier to catch a ball and go to the ground and hang on than it is to try to run through a catch off balance.
But it's a tougher catch to make. If you can run through a ball, it's easier because your head is not moving as much as if you dive. When you dive, then that changes your whole eye level. It's tougher to catch and hold on to. then run through it. You have to make up your mind before you even start your dive. You'd be surprised how many balls you can catch up to if you try and run through them. I think as an outfielder.
Iglesias a little late with the swing, but he was able to foul it back. Foul back out of play. And that's going to be a base hit. 2-out single keeps the inning alive.
Pretty nice at bat there by Iglesias. Well, you can celebrate the 20th anniversary of the Tribe's '95 World Series. That team will take place a week from tomorrow, June 20th. Kenny Lofton, Baerga, Jim Thome, Mike Hargrove, and more will be on hand for the celebration. 12,500 T-shirts will be given away. Also, post-game fireworks. Get your tickets at Indians.com.
Anthony goes to ground out his first time up. There goes. And a throw is a little bit offline, but a terrific job to apply the tag by Aviles. And the inning is over. Yan Gomes throws out Jose Iglesias. Ryan Rayburn makes a terrific running catch, and we are still scoreless.
Including savings and access to Tribe Rewards. Today's Tribe Rewards TV code is Hershiser. You can go to Indians.com season tickets for complete details.
Mike Aviles leading off the sixth for the Tribe, went to the front of the box, shortened up as if to bunt, but took a strike.
I'm afraid of the baseball guy.
Aviles singled to left in the third inning. One of 4 Indian singles here tonight, but the Tribe has also banged into 2 double plays. one came in the third when they had 2 on and only 1 out, and Santana rolled into an inning-ending double play. Bounced in the hole and a base hit once again. Avila's 2 for 2.
Well, Mike got it on a 1-1 count that time.
Oh, both pitchers have been outstanding here tonight, and that leads us to our in-game recap, brought to you by your Toyota dealers. David Price has given up now 5 hits without a walk and struck out 5. Danny Salazar has been very efficient tonight. Only a couple of strikeouts, but boy, he's maybe pitched as well as we've seen him all season long.
He's had great stuff, and it's all about the center of the diamond tonight. They're not giving up much. Price has been able to get the double play ball twice tonight after he had base runners, followed up singles. That's been his big weapon tonight.
Kipnis lays down a bunt, but it goes foul.
Right idea. And he was bunting for a base hit there. He wasn't trying to sacrifice. He was going for a base hit.
Well, we talked about how efficient Danny Salazar has been tonight, but that's sort of the name of the game for David Price. Let's go down to Andre, who has more on that.
He absolutely. He has 5 Ks and 55 pitches thrown here in the 6th inning. You guys talk about the double play. Also, David Price came into the 9th game with 68 3-pitch strikeouts. That's first in all of baseball. Kershaw is at second with 62. Strasburg with 57. This is how he pitches deep into games, though, guys, and still gets strikeouts. He goes at hitters, doesn't walk them, and attacks them. He has 69 3-pitch strikeouts already this season.
All right, thanks a lot, Andre. Jason Kipnis, swing and a miss.
Well, add that other one. That's a 3-pitch strikeout right there.
6th strikeout of the night for Price. Good location on the fastball.
Yeah, good fastball away. See, a lot of left-handers, when they try and strike you out when they get to 2 strikes, they try to get you to chase their breaking ball. Price is different. He goes out there and he tries to spot that outside fastball. He missed a couple of times, but that one right there was just perfect.
Last year, it was at the trading deadline. And David Price was, of course, with Tampa Bay, and he kind of had a feeling that something was likely to happen, that he would probably be moved on July 31st or maybe before then. Tampa Bay had an off day. He went to the golf course, and he got a text message from Jabba Chamberlain. And the text message read, "Make sure you bring your sticks." And Price kind of scratched and said, "We already played the Tigers this year. What's he talking about?" It didn't sink in that he had been traded to Detroit. Got home, called his agent, and said, "Wow, guess I'm going to Detroit."
Yeah, they find out before you do. How about that?
Line on one, hop backhanded by Iglesias. They get the force at second, and turn 2. Wow, you have got to be kidding me. That was exceptional. What a play by Iglesias to get an out, let alone turn a double play here.
Well, there's the first out. Do they get him at first? Oh, it sure looks like it.
Terry Francona thought about a challenge, waved it off, said, nope, double play.
What a great play.
Now that was a terrific double play started by Jose Iglesias.
Yeah, you get a ball by that kid there, you earn a base hit. He is something special out there at shortstop.
Bottom of the 6th, still no score, and Anthony Ghost leading it off for Detroit. And a foul back. Ultimately, the one thing that may enable David Price to get deeper in this game than Salazar is he's had 3 double plays turned behind him tonight.
Right.
Danny had a couple of 1, 2, 3 innings. The other thing is Salazar a number of times tonight has had a chance to get a strikeout with a 2-strike pitch and hasn't been able to get the call, and it's extended at bats probably. Oh, that one's by Santana, and Ghost will turn to hold with the leadoff single. I think in the long run it's probably cost Danny another 10 to 12, maybe 15 pitches.
It might have. Well, there's one down in the end. He got that fastball. They wanted it away. He missed his target that time, and Ghost jumps on it, gets it under the glove of Santana into right field. Just the 4th hit now for Detroit, but that little speed on first base with nobody out, and you've got a combination at the plate here with Davis and then Kinsler to follow. They certainly have something they ever wanted to start a runner. They've got the right combination.
Pitch is down low to Rajai Davis. 1 for 2 with a single and a stolen base on the night.
Ghost has 8 stolen bases, has been caught 5 times, which is a lot. But it's a long look by Davis down to his third base coach.
This is a good guy to put a game on with because it seems, Rick, that he can put the ball in play.
He can. He can go the other way. That's what I'm saying. It's a nice combination they have working right here if they choose to do so. Gomes now, he threw out Iglesias last inning. Davis did have the stolen base back in the 1st.
Swung on and missed. 1-on-1 the count. If you're Brad Osmonds, you might be tempted to put a play on, start a run, or get something going. But at the same time, you got Kinsler on deck and then Cabrera after him. So maybe you just let the inning play out, and maybe the threat of him running will get you a pitch to hit.
You don't want to make any outs on the bases. You have your leadoff man aboard. You're back at the top of your lineup going through for the 3rd time.
Base hit to left. Ghost stops at second, and the first 2 Tigers have reached here in the 6th inning. And it's the first time they've had back-to-back men reach in the game.
Well, Davis is a tough out. He finds the hole between short and third. Hit it on the ground. You want that ground ball as a pitcher, but it found a hole.
Tough out for the Indians, especially. He's 8 for 15 against Cleveland this year. Now Ian Kinsler, who's 0 for 2, but it's taken 2 terrific defensive plays to get him. One by Ryan Rayburn at deep left, another by Giovanni Urshela at third. Now, can the Indians get a double play?
Well, that would be the thing to do if you can get a ground ball at somebody. Kinsler, a guy that can hit the ball in the air, and he does a lot. And you take the bunt away, because if you bunt him over, then you can walk Cabrera.
Five ground ball outs on the night for Salazar. And Kinsler was lifted. He was trying to hit that ball 10 miles.
And that's the thing. Kinsler realizes he's a fly ball guy. When he gets after it, he tried to hit this one in the air and lift. You see, he has that uppercut, and that was his swing in years past. That swing right there. That's how he attacked every pitch. Maybe that was the one shot he wanted to take.
Swung on and missed with a great off-speed pitch. I don't know if that was a slider on the outside corner, but it was dynamite.
It looked like it to me. That yes, that was a slider. You can see where that hand came around it.
And Kinsler down in the count now, 1-2. Swung on and missed. He chased one in the dirt, and Danny gets his third strikeout of the night.
Well, he needed one there, and he was able to go back and get it, and it was a nice sequence. The very first pitch, he tried to jump on a high fastball, and he was able to throw it by him. So you get ahead of him. He missed with a low heater, comes back with a good slider. Now he's going to throw the change, and look at that thing disappear. He had him to swing at a bad pitch. 4 pitches, gets the first out, and it's a strikeout. But now he's got his work cut out for him again.
You know, Miguel Cabrera at the plate, and really tough to pitch around him here with 2 already aboard and 1 out. Struck Cabrera out on a high fastball his last time up. That ball's hit a ton. Deep center. And goodbye. Holy smokes. Cabrera with a monster mammoth shot to straightaway center field. A 3-run homer, and the Tigers lead it 3-0. His 13th home run of the season, his 4th against Cleveland.
There wasn't any messing around that time. That's the first at bat without his glasses tonight, and I mean, he smoked that one. That went up into the camera deck and set straight away center field. A fastball right down the middle. And he makes Salazar pay. That's a 3-run home run. Cabrera's 13th of the year, and look how far that one. That's 420 down there, and that was elevated up. That was a bomb, folks. And it's 3-0 Detroit.
I think the only other guy I've seen hit one up there was Jim Thome. That is a long way.
Well, it has the crowd buzzing.
Yoenis Cespedes 1 for 2 on the night. And a foul back. Cabrera with 13 homers, 42 runs batted in. He went around, and that'll be a strikeout. 4th for Salazar, 2 down in the inning.
Now take a look at the location of this pitch. That looked like he wanted to run that fastball back in. It might have been a 2-seamer, Matt, that had just stayed flat. And boy, I'll tell you what, it went a long way. I watched Brantley, and he was cruising, watching it. You could tell, even from out in center field, as far away as you were. He did that in Salazar's first start back in Cleveland. If you remember, Salazar struck him out 3 straight times. Late in the ball game, he came up. He tried to throw a high fastball by him, and he hit a bomb.
Foul back. Back out of play. Tyler Collins 0 for 2 tonight. He's flied to left both times. Strikes him out, ends the inning. Talk about pillar to post. 3 strikeouts for Salazar, but a 3-run homer for Cabrera. to you by Kia. Visit mykiacleveland.com to learn more. By Levin Mattress, located in all Levin furniture and freestanding locations. And by AT&T Uverse, has more channels on the go than cable. Three 0 now by Detroit. They've also turned 3 double plays in the ballgame. Couple of garden variety.
4-6-3, 6-4-3.
But the last one was something to behold.
Yes, it was. And then they come in and they scored 3 runs after that play right there.
Michael Brantley leading off the 7th now for the Tribe. 1 for 2 on the night. Brantley with a base hit in the left field in the first, fly to left in the 4th. And he shoots this one toward left center field, and it will drop for a hit. Ghost dove and it kicked away from him, and Brantley will scoot into second base with a leadoff double.
Yeah, he had quite a run to try and catch this ball, and he was going to leave his feet. What it helped because it deflected the ball past Cespedes. Right at the last minute, just got under his glove, and you can see why he had to dive for it. It was that close. Caught the end of his glove. Brantley just watching it, but he cruises into second base. That's double number 19. He and Kipnis now tied for the league lead in that department. 19 doubles.
Ryan Rayburn is 0 for 2 both times tonight. He is flied out to right field. Indians trying to answer back after the 3-run homer by Cabrera. Hits even now at 6 apiece. And Rayburn takes a strike.
You know, you look at Price, and with those double plays we showed you earlier, he is at 61 pitches, and we are in the top half of the 7th inning. He's coming off a complete game win against the White Sox in his last start, where he gave up 5 hits and just the 1 run.
Up high with a heater, 0-2.
When you look at his pitches, look at that. 14 is the most he has thrown. A 5-pitch fifth, 8-pitch sixth. You talk about efficiency.
Yeah.
20 of 24 first pitch strikes.
Inside, he missed. Down on the count, 1-2. Rayburn trying to make something happen here for the Indians. Little bit high, 2-2. Now the pitch, and that's in the dirt. So Rayburn showing some patience, working himself into a good spot here. Nick Swisher waiting on deck. Price really taking his time.
He usually does.
And Rayburn digging in, awaiting this 3-2 offering. Oh, he rings him up. 7 strikeouts for Price. 1 down.
That's the first called strikeout of the night for Price. He had him down on the count 0-2, and boy, that's pretty close. That's about the same pitch you've been watching all night long out there. He gets the call here.
Well, and again, it sounds like sour grapes when you talk about it in this vein, but that same pitch, location-wise, was called a ball.
It looked like
with Danny Salazar out there on 3 different occasions. This time, Rayburn gets rung up by that same pitch. Now Nick Swisher, who's 0 for 2, he's popped up, flied out. I'm sure folks in Detroit are wondering if at season's end David Price will re-sign with the Tigers or if he'll explore the riches that possibly await him in free agency.
I think he will.
Max Scherzer did it. He signed for a Brinks load full of money. 1-0 pitch. And what's really interesting, Rick, and look, things can change, but David Price, Johnny Cueto, Jordan Zimmerman, Zach Greinke, all could be on the free agent market. Wow, this winter. That's a lot of money for 4 pitchers. And Greinke's probably a little older than those guys, but still,
yeah,
somebody will line up to offer him huge dollars, I'm sure. Out of play by Swisher.
Well, the Tigers, they spend it, but will they spend it on this guy after already signing Verlander and, you know, Sanchez?
I was convinced they were going to keep Scherzer. I was surprised when it really didn't seem like they were in it. But hey, I mean, everybody has their limits. Everybody's got a budget, a payroll of some sort they've got to work with.
I think so. Maybe except the Dodgers.
Their budget's higher than the GNP of some third world nations. A 1-2. Just missed inside. And the count evens up.
Boy, he is not afraid to pitch the right-handers inside. He gets the 2 strikes. He went in there a couple of times with Rayburn, and he just missed. Didn't get that call in off the plate.
Two. Swisher with a fly ball to center field. Right at goes. 2 down.
Well, it'll be another dollar dog night when we return home. The Tampa Bay Rays come to town, hosting Kevin Cash, the new manager for them. They can also enjoy post-game fireworks shows. Go to Indians.com for their ticket details. That'll be next Friday.
Price just over 70 pitches on the night, and he's got 2 down after the leadoff double by Brantley. Yan Gomes has struck out twice tonight. Indians have CC Lee up in the bullpen. They've got a left-hander up as well, maybe. Not sure if the night's going to be over for Danny after 6. Pitch is inside. 1-0. No, just CC. Lee was just called up yesterday when the Indians sent Austin Adams back to AAA. Popped him up. Price is going to be able to work around the leadoff double here in the 7th. And he's kept the Indians on ice so far here tonight. We've reached the 7th inning stretch, brought to you by Spitzer Auto World.
Well, stay tuned after the game for Indians Live, brought to you by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care. Al and Jason bring you the action.
Danny Salazar, 95 pitches on the night. That's why C.C. Lee is up in the bullpen. Nick Castellanos to lead it off for Detroit. And a pitch low and away, ball 1. High fly ball right field. Moss camps under it, backs up a few. 1 down. Tune in to Fox Sports Ohio on Sunday for Cavaliers Live before and after Game 5 of the NBA Finals. Our home team starting 5 will bring you all the pre- and post-game coverage from Oakland and the Q starting at 7 p.m. on the home of the Cavs, Fox Sports Ohio. Well, going to get interesting now, huh? All things even up at 2-2.
Oh, yeah. It is interesting.
So now
they made an adjustment, so...
There's a long drive to the left. Rayburn watching. It's going to hit the fence, and Karam's away from him. McCann into second. He's going to go for 3. And the throw is offline. A leadoff triple for James McCann. Or make that a 1-out triple. As he slides in safely to third. Rayburn was trying to play the Karam as though it was going to go back to him towards left center field, and it kicked over toward the line.
Well, McCann made the decision by watching Rayburn go after this ball. And that's what he did. He came into it, and he didn't jump on it. McCann made a decision. I'm going to go to third base. With 1 out, that's a pretty good idea.
Did you see where that ball hit, Rick? It hit the side of the padding. It hit right on the corner of it. And I think if the ball's 2 inches more to the right, then Ryan gets a perfect Karam. Instead, it caught the inside of that padding and kicked the other direction on him. So kind of a bad break for Rayburn, and it ends up a triple for McCann. Watch where this ball hits. Just on the inside of that padding.
Yep.
If it hits off the green part,
fencing.
Yeah. that hits off the green part, it's going to go back towards where Ryan's running. Instead, it hit that chain link fence and kicked the complete opposite direction.
Well, the infield's coming in now, trying to cut off the run at home plate.
And a strike call to Jose Iglesias. There's a strike call on the outside corner, and it's 0-2. 67% of his pitches for strikes here tonight. Aviles has to go to the ground, but he's able to hold the runner McCann at third, 2 away. See, I think because the ball went back at the pitcher, he had to freeze, right?
Well, yeah, and you got the catcher out there. He was probably going to make it go through. And it wasn't hit hard enough. And you're right, the third base coach says make sure it gets past the pitcher. I mean, he'll tell him that right before it's hit. Aviles makes a nice sliding play. He didn't have to worry about it. Just come up and field it cleanly and throw to first. See, he started, but he froze. And that's a catcher out there running, so it's not a speedster. If it was a guy that could run a little bit better, you'd probably go on contact with a 3-0 lead.
Fouled back by Ghost. Boy, is he an aggressive swinger. I remember back in Cleveland, I think he led off the game with a first pitch.
Yeah.
Home run.
Sure did. Well, Danny with a chance to keep it 3-0. A little bit of pitching.
I guess at the end of the day, if you're that runner at third base and the ball doesn't leave the infield, if you start and stop, you better stay.
Yeah, you're not going anywhere. It's all on decision. A guy with speed will anticipate it and go. Make it go. You know, when the guy tells you make it go through, first of all, that's putting a defensive thought in your mind out there.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to make sure it goes through because that's what you're told. But if you're aggressive and you can run, hey, you're going on contact. You look for a ball down in the zone, and when it's hit on the ground, you're off and running anyway with your momentum carrying. And if it's hit right at a guy, you're going to be dead anyway. If it's not, you're going to make it.
Ghost got a piece of that, 2-2. Houston's whipping Seattle at home tonight, 9-0 in the 7th inning.
Can I tell you something about that? 1/3 of an inning for King Felix, 8 runs.
Wow.
How about that?
It's got to be a career first, right?
Yeah, I would think so.
1/3 of an inning.
Yeah.
That Astros team is something else. Two.
Got him. Good job.
Danny Salazar.
What's everybody waiting for?
It's strike 3, isn't it?
That's 3,
It's
isn't
the
it?
inning, boys. Let's go. A lot of confusion out there on the field. and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cleveland Indians. Danny Salazar went 7 innings tonight, and one pitch cost him 3 runs to Miguel Cabrera, who clobbered a titanic 3-run homer to straightaway center field, and that's been it tonight.
Yeah, he's thrown the ball beautifully.
Andrew Romine comes in defensively now for the Tigers. You'll see him at third base. Right now he's in short right field.
That must mean Brandon Moss is hitting.
Moss singled through that shift his last time up.
He must have moved third base if he's filling in.
David Price has given up 6 singles tonight. Has not walked a batter and has struck out 7.
He has been locked in. He has had 3 double plays turned behind him.
A ball and 2 strikes. And Moss is strikeout victim number 8 on the night for David Price.
Well, the Tribe will take on the Tampa Bay Rays Friday. That'll be June 19th out at the ballpark. You can save on tickets. You buy lower reserved or lower box by June 15th. You save 21%. Just go to Indians.com.
Giovanni Urshela 0 for 2 has struck out and grounded into a double play. It's an off-speed pitch, and it's in there for a strike. Right field base hit for Urshela. 7th hit of the night for Cleveland. A 1-out base runner now.
Well, he made a nice adjustment there. Struck him out on changeups the first time. He rolled over on a double play ball the second time. And there he gets a pitch away, stayed on it, take it to right field. Good pitch. That was up. It might have been another changeup.
I think
but it was upstairs.
Yeah.
So he made the adjustment. That's a good job of hitting right there. Never facing this guy before.
Mike Aviles has had David Price's number so far tonight. Twice he has singled, both times to left field. Fastball for strike 1. In the dirt, nicely blocked by McCann. Hits are even at 7 apiece. And Salazar opened his offense and break through here in the 8th. Running out of opportunities. Just missed inside. Another close pitch, and now Price is looking in, saying, huh?
Well, it's been pretty much a ball all night long down there. And it's called a ball again. The one time Price got one was last inning. I thought that was in about the same spot.
Yep.
But for the most part, it's been a ball all night.
Check down low. Oh, they said he went around. Are you kidding me? Full count. Rob Drake raises the right hand.
Let's take a look at it. Tough to tell from that angle, from the front. Get a better look here. And I got to agree.
Really?
Yeah.
You think that's a swing? Okay. Well, you've got Urshela at first with 1 out. Jason Kipnis waiting on deck. Aviles awaits the 3-2 pitch. Uh-oh. Here we go again. The 4th double play of the night turned by the Tigers infield. Stay tuned for Indians Live, presented by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care with Alan Jensen. Coming up next here on Sports Time Ohio. Beautiful evening here in Detroit. As we take a look at our Cleveland Clinic call to the bullpen, it will be C.C. Lee. Kind of the forgotten man, you know?
Yes, you're right.
But he's back, getting an opportunity once again here. He'll pitch the 8th inning. Lee at AAA Columbus in 19 games, a very good earned run average of 235.
Well, he's going to get his chance again, and unfortunately, just one bad pitch for Salazar. Fastball to Cabrera is the difference in the ball game. He went 7 innings, 7 hits, 3 runs. He walked 1, struck out 6.
Rajay Davis takes a strike. C.C. Lee in his last 9 outings at AAA Columbus pitched 12 innings and allowed 1 run with 17 strikeouts.
Well, if his arm angle's right, he can be tough on right-handed hitters because he gets it up there and that ball comes back to the outside corner. He'd be awfully tough on righties, and that's what Terry wants him to be. He wants him to go down and do just that.
I think Terry's always been more surprised that CeCe Lee hasn't been a dominant pitcher than anything else.
Right.
Because Terry watches him, that arm angle and the way the ball comes out of his hand. He says, I don't know how right-handers ever hit this guy.
Got a slider to go with it.
Urshela throws out Davis, one away. Rick, it's already here. Thursday.
Wow.
The U.S. Open will begin on Fox and Fox Sports 1 from the Pacific Northwest, the 115th U.S. Open, live from Chambers Bay Golf Course. It begins next Thursday on Fox Sports 1, Fox, and streaming live on Fox Sports Go.
You'll be paying attention to it out there on that golf course, won't you?
Yes, indeed. You know, we got to play a spectacular course when we were in Seattle, but we were high, great views and vistas, and we were a little bit inland. I'm really anxious to see that course and how the best golfers in the world play it.
Links course, and it's about an hour outside of Seattle on the water. And you could have different weather every day.
That's going to bleed in for a base hit off the bat of Ian Kinsler, his first hit tonight. And as we mentioned earlier, it's Miller time, brought to you by Miller Lite. Not a moment to remember if you're an Indians fan. Yet another dagger by Miguel Cabrera. His fourth home run, 12 runs batted in just this year against the Indians. And oh, by the way, he's 16 for 25 against the Tribes. Elsewhere in the Central, Tampa Bay leading the White Sox 6-2 in the 6th down in St. Pete. Twins shutting out Texas 1-0 in the 5th. And the Kansas City Royals are involved in an interleague game with their rivals from St. Louis. Cardinals lead the Royals 2-0 there in the 4th at the new Busch Stadium. 1-1. Another long fly ball. Deep right center. Brantley can't get it. That'll go to the wall. That'll play Kinsler. 4-0 Detroit. It's an RBI double for Cabrera. He's driven in all 4 for the Tigers.
Boy, he just sees an Indians uniform and lights up. This one's going to right center field. He stays on the ball so well. Kinsler able to get a good read off the bat, and it hits into the corner. It was a low fastball. The ball he hit out was a high fastball. That one had middle of the plate, but it was down, and he shoots it into right center field. So he gets his 42nd RBI, gets his 12th double, and it is Cabrera 4, the Indians nothing.
I know that these are professional athletes, the best of the best, and they're all very competitive people. But at what point, if you're in Terry Francona's shoes, do you say, you know what, this guy's like Barry Bonds was in his absolute very best, and just walk him every time regardless of the situation?
Well, you're out there. We play him 19 times, and you can see the damage he can do. And I mean, he single-handedly can take you out of the ball game. Well, I don't know. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
You might be right. Just go ahead and put him on, no matter if it pushes a runner into scoring position. Just get your next guy out.
Grounded to short. Cespedes thrown out by Aviles. Who was it? Didn't somebody walk Bonds with the bases loaded?
Buck Showalter, when he was with the Diamondbacks, walked him. Said, I'd rather give up one than
4. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I know you want to be respectful of the game. You don't want to turn it into a mockery. But I mean, this guy has done it. He's absolutely proven against Cleveland that if you pitch to him, he's going to beat you.
Yeah. That's true. And I think if you look at his numbers against all of our pitchers, it's pretty good no matter how you slice it.
Timeout for a pitching change. Nick Hagedorn coming on when we come back. CLE got 2 outs in the inning, but he also gave up a single and an RBI double. And so it's a 4-0 ball game. Nick Hagedorn on to face the left-handed hitting Tyler Collins, and now they call for a pinch hitter. And J.D. Martinez will be the batter. With 2 outs here in the 8th.
First guy coming in, he's going to walk intentionally.
Well, you've got Andrew Romine, who's a switch hitter on deck.
Right.
So I don't know if that's a case where they'd rather have Hagedorn face him.
Well, I'm sure they knew that they were going to pinch hit J.D. Martinez here if they brought in the left-hander, but then that's what you do. You end up walking J.D. and you take your chances with Romine, who came in defensively for Castellanos.
Yeah, he's only 1 for 5 from the right side of the plate, so he's most of his ABs are from the other side.
I'm sure they knew that's the matchup they wanted.
So 2 on, 2 out, and Andrew Romine will face Nick Hagedorn. Ground ball right at Aviles. He'll go the long way, and the inning is over. Miguel Cabrera having another field day against Cleveland. He's driven in all 4 for the Tigers tonight. to the game brought to you by Wayside Furniture. The Indians get to the Tigers' pen. Price is still in the game. So not only have they not been able to get to the pen, they haven't been able to get to Price. He's done an outstanding job. And Miguel Cabrera, even without Victor Martinez, has punished the Indians once again.
Well, Price coming out the 4 double plays certainly helped. J.D. Martinez stays in the game and goes to right field. But 4 double play balls. Story of the night.
Yeah. The good news is that the Indians had hits tonight. All but one were singles of their 7. But the double play ball short-circuiting potential rallies all night long. Now the 1-1. A little bit low. Jason Kipnis, 1 out of 3 in the ball game. He's hit in 8 straight games. Now ball to first. Cabrera takes it himself. 1 down. $35,379 here at Comerica Park. Is it a sellout? 6,000 shy of a sellout. This will only be the 90th pitch of the night for David Price. Ground ball to third. Romine. 2 down. Rick, when was the last time you saw a guy complete a game under 100 pitches?
Corey Kluber last year against Kansas City when he threw 85, I believe. Remember? I'm thinking that was like a Maddox style game.
Yeah.
Remember he went out there, it was like, geez, did he even break a sweat? So that's the last time I recall. That's the first thing that popped into my mind.
I'm glad it took you so long to recall that. Like bringing a knife to a gunfight. Pitch in for a strike to Michael Brantley. I was thinking, you know, his last time out against the White Sox, 110 pitches for a complete game. I was like, wow, that's really efficient. Well, he's blowing that away with what he's done tonight. But hey, you get 4 double plays turned behind you, that'll tend to.
Yeah, you get the 2 for 1. Buy one, get one.
Brantley has 2 of the Indians' 7 hits tonight, and their only extra base hit when he doubled the lead off the 7th. But he never was advanced from second base. Rip foul. They haven't had much to cheer about tonight because it was one of those tense pitchers' duels through the first 5 innings. But in the bottom of the 6th, a 3-run homer by Cabrera gave him breathing room. He would add an RBI double, and David Price has taken care of the rest thanks to his infield defense. And now the 2-strike pitch to Brantley. Bounce to third. Romine flips it over, and the Indians drop the opener here in Detroit by a final score of 4-0. David Price with a complete game victory on just 93 pitches.
His second straight complete game W. He did it last start against the White Sox. Gave up 5 hits. Did give up a run in that one. That was 110. Third career shutout. First since 2012.
Tigers go to 32 and 29. Indians fall to 28 and 32. And it's time now for the Pat O'Brien Chevrolet play of the game.
Well, it's going to be one pitch. A high fastball, and Cabrera just smokes it to straightaway center field. And I'm telling you, that was the only bad pitch of the ball game there for Salazar. It was a really crisp, good ball game. And then one swing of the bat gives the Tigers 3 runs, and that man is awfully dangerous against the Cleveland Indians.
Both pitchers are now 6 and 2. Salazar, the loser. Price is the winner. Final score tonight: Tigers 4, Indians nothing. We're back with final thoughts right after this.